and welcome to How Not to Fuck It Up, the definitive guide to new business through other people's mistakes, with me, Hannah March, Chief Growth Officer of creative agency Fold 7. Welcome, Jess. I'm speaking today to Jess Gibb, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at St. Luke's. Your career spanned over 20 years in the new biz world, but with a 4-year gap as an advertising headhunter, which we can probably cover off a little bit of that later. It's quite interesting. I'm working at both large and small local and global agencies, including biggies like Leo Burnett and Havas, 180 Amsterdam as well, and another smaller one called Farm. You're currently sitting on the management board at St. Luke's. And in addition to new business, very passionate about people, playing an active part in developing and nurturing a strong sense of culture and identity at St. Luke's. Currently co-chair of IPA's New Business Committee and sit on the board for children's charity Pencils for Kids.
That's right.
A bit about St. Luke's. Shortlisted for campaigns, Independent Agency of the Year and Global Agency of the Year 4 of the last 6 years, both of those things. Oystercatcher's Agency of the Year 2019 to 2024, and named a Best Place to Work 7 years in a row by Campaign, won Oystercatcher's Best Agency Culture in 2018 and 2024. And the greatest growth achievement that you have told me, Jess, is when you won 14 pitches in a row a few years ago and topped all of the new business leagues.
And just to clarify, it wasn't me, it was St. Luke's. So there was a lot of us involved, but yeah, 14 pitches in a row, heady days.
Yeah.
But it became, I have to say, a bit of a fear that you might lose, who's going to lose the next one. So that was an interesting thing to overcome as well.
Yeah, and I have to ask about that actually before we kind of officially start, because that is incredible. And what do you think it was that was driving that success at the time?
I think it's the strength of the team.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you just get on a roll and the team are working so well together. They believe in each other and it just clicks and it works.
Yeah.
But it was extraordinary. And I'd love to repeat it, but I think it was extraordinary.
And do you think that you had kind of found your pitch flow, I guess, like with the way that you were showing up and the way that you're presenting and how you were showing the work and all of those things? Was that part of it?
Absolutely. There's a lot of skill in it. There's a lot of talent in it. There's a lot of work that you do about creating the right teams, but it's also about the environment and it's about the opportunities that are coming up and it's about the luck of the opportunities that are coming up. And that's all combined as well with your reputation and all of those stars kind of aligning together. And it's a really special time when that all happens, but it took an awful lot of work to get to that point. You know, I've talked about luck, but that's more about factors that you can't control, the right opportunities coming up. But it was making sure that we were in the best position possible from a team point of view, from a reputation point of view and from a work point of view to answer all of those briefs when they came in.
I mean, that's an amazing achievement, so well done. Now we'll go to the official questions. As a little sidebar chat there. I do like to start with guest as child, just to try and understand your personality a bit and what you were into at the time. So tell me where you grew up, what your life was like. Did you have any siblings?
When you asked this question, I was thinking, oh, crikey, I've got to get a story out of this. But I had a very uneventful, happy childhood. Growing up in the country, I've got an older sister, and I spent an idyllic childhood hooning around the countryside on my bike. I really enjoyed sport and drama at school. I enjoyed, I think, the team nature and success of sport and the competitive element.
So a people person and fairly confident?
Fairly confident. I mean, I think I'm one of those... I like to be in the middle of it, but kind of on the side, if you know what I mean. So just
in the middle on the side.
Middle side, yeah. Maybe just behind someone, I don't know. And I love the performance of drama. I think drama is the most incredible thing that you can do at school because it gets you talking, it gets you on the stage, and it gets rid of fear of performance that we all need kind of as we get older. Yeah. But my absolute clear passion was always history. From a really, really early age. It just really, really spoke to me. I think it's understanding the world we live in, and I was so interested in the context because I think to work in today's environment, you have to understand how we got here.
Well, also the interesting thing about history is that it is subjective. So whilst being real, depending on who's written the history,
well, it's usually written by the victors.
Different.
So yeah, yes, absolutely. But we were always taught to, when making the arguments about what happened in history, to go to all the sides of the spectrum to kind of get your arguments together.
Yeah, it's a pretty good preparation, I suppose, because it's all about human behaviour as well.
It's understanding human behaviours, motivators. It's putting together arguments. It's really understanding cause and effects. It's understanding how people tick. It's fascinating. I think it's, as you said, it's a great foundation for advertising. I think it really leans into the skills that you need.
Did you think that you ever were going to be in a career in marketing and advertising? When did that happen?
Well, no, I didn't. I studied history for a degree, and I went to Goldsmiths, fell in love with London and Goldsmiths, hook, line, sinker. I always kind of knew that I would. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I kind of thought I might do an MA in history, or I might be a researcher for documentaries, or be a journalist. That was kind of the way that I was going. I went travelling around the world, did a year doing that, which was absolutely incredible, and then came back, and I really thought, I've got to get a job now. I've really got to settle down. All my friends were kind of, getting into their chosen careers. And I went to a temping agency. I thought, I've got to get some money quickly because I was absolutely broke, called Working Girls in Soho, which I don't think exists anymore. And luckily...
Risque name.
Yeah, well, yes. Luckily, it was for the marketing industry rather than any other industry. And I got sent along to Leo Burnett's, of all places, to be a PA to the marketing director. And it was... They said, have you heard about advertising? I was like, no, I hadn't heard about it. And I walked in and I was like, this is incredible. I couldn't believe that this industry existed. I interviewed for the job. I actually ended up not getting it. They offered it to someone else, and then sent me across to McDonald's to go and interview to be an account exec. But then the person they offered the job to said no. So they came back and said, would you like to have it? Here's a bit more money. Sorry about that. And I was like, you do not need to pay me any extra money. I'm there. And I've been in growth ever since. I just couldn't believe we got paid to do this. It was the most interesting, dynamic. It was extraordinary.
Let's go to the broad topic of mistake making and failing, because that's what I think lots of people would like to hear about in terms of your history. You've obviously had a super successful run at St. Luke's. If you could go back to younger Jess starting in the industry and tell her to change one thing, what would it be? Well,
there's loads of things I'd change. Imposter syndrome, all of those things, just stop worrying about stuff so much and believe in yourself. But I don't think that's very unique. And I think we all suffer a bit from that.
Very common.
Very, very common, exactly. That makes us a bit more human. I would like to tell myself that there's a future for you in advertising after 30. When I first got into it, I really thought it was going to be a 10-year kind of, working life. And then I think about going into something else afterwards, be a client, or maybe going to be a researcher, or doing those other things that I thought about, or doing an MA, or, finally going around to doing second education or a second round of education. And that was because of the environment that it was then. And I think it was a very different environment to now. I didn't see working mothers. I didn't see the place where there were people that had needs outside of exactly what was happening in that place at that time.
Because it was so all-consuming.
So all-consuming. Leaving at 10 o'clock at night was absolutely what happened. There was a bar there, so that was fine. I was 23 at that time. It didn't matter. But I just couldn't see how that fitted in with any other sort of lifestyle. But it has, and it's changed. And I would like, and I hope people do see and understand now, that there has been seismic shifts in the way that we work. I'd also tell myself to find a place that will allow you to be who you need to be and do what you want to do and do what you know. And you've got to have a really good think about what's important to you before you can go in and understand what sort of place is right for you.
So finding the right fit for you business-wise.
Where you can be yourself. We spend so much time at work, which is wonderful, but you need to be able to be yourself at work. And you can't be sitting there unhappy or feeling that you're missing out on something in another part of your life. It's not going to make you bring your best self to work at any point.
And on that topic, because I think when we had spoken the other day, Jess, and I'd asked you about what the biggest mistake was that you ever made, and it was something related to this topic around you staying somewhere too long.
Crikey. Yeah, I mean, right, you have to kiss frogs to get to the right place. I have definitely stayed in places too long that there's been quite a toxic working environment with people or departments working against each other rather than together, which I just do not understand. It's just not part of the way that I like to work. And I think I tried for too long fit in, to... I think it's the eternal optimism as well. I can make this better. I can make this better. I can work with this. It's absolutely fine. And it probably has made me better at creating relationships at other places.
Yeah.
Because I understand what's working, where the tensions are.
And where your boundaries are.
Where my boundaries are. And when it's just not working, it's like, do you know what? No.
And so what advice would you give to people? Like, how do you find that line? Because as you say, in our job especially, it is about resilience and about pushing to change things and make things better. So how do you find where that line is when you think it's not I think
trust your gut. Also, get out there, go and meet people, because I think you find out so much about people when you're just having one-on-one conversations. Talk to your mates in the industry, and you know if something isn't right, and go and interview and go and talk to headhunters and go and talk to journalists, and I know this is easy coming from me now. I've been in the industry for so long, but I think that's what younger people have to do. They just have to go and explore.
What do you think are the most common mistakes in growth roles?
Oh, God, there's so many. One of the biggest things is you have to have management signed up to clear criteria on the opportunities that you should be going after.
So not having a clear framework around what you do and don't go for.
Absolutely. And having a clear process that you can go to the X amount of people that need to sign this off and say, right, this is the opportunity. Say, is it a financial opportunity, a client opportunity, a creative opportunity? And there's lots of nuances within those things. It's not always a pass or fail, but just having a really clear understanding and that everyone signs it off, or everyone's on board and everyone's behind it and excited about the opportunity. And there's also the classic of throwing too much at pitches and not knowing when to stop. And I don't think there'll be a person here who hasn't done that. And who knows, while they're doing it, that, this is going on too long.
Question on that one. Have you ever managed to cut it off? So in a pitch situation, have you ever been in a position where you have pulled the plug at that stage? Or no, just that you wish you had?
Intermediary pitches are a blessing because there's a start, middle and end, and you have a third party that you can go through and you can call out bad behaviour. And I think the Pitch Positive Pledge has really helped open that conversation. But when you're in the weeds of a pitch, in the midst of it, and there's just one more round or just one more bit of feedback or just one more, it's really hard to walk away at that point because you've already invested so much into it. And, again, it goes back to us being so naturally optimistic because you cannot do this job unless you are optimistic. So you don't go into it with a defeatist attitude or a...
Yeah, I have to say the Pitch Positive Pledge, I think the intent of it is brilliant, but I do not think it is delivering. You've got the majority of agencies are signed up to it, obviously, and you've got a very small percentage of clients who even know what it is.
I think what it's enabled, and it's a starting point, because a catch-all, people aren't going to sign up to a catch-all, and also agencies, until we all have a code of conduct that we agree how to behave and stick to it, it's always going to be very, very difficult.
Which is unlikely to happen.
Well, exactly. So there's lots of things at play in this, but I think what it's given is an opportunity to go back and go, oh, we've signed up to the Pitch Positive Pledge. Have you read the principles? And pitching the day after a bank holiday.
We've certainly done that a lot.
The impact is this. And I think that it has helped so enormously in that way, the impact, because, we really, really try not to work weekends, and it is very rare that we do, and we don't want to work super late nights, and we don't want to impact on people's lives. But if you've got a pitch at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning after a bank holiday, or on the 2nd of January, that is going to really negatively affect your staff, and you have to protect your staff at all costs.
Agree.
And I think this has just allowed us to be able to do that without being the one lone voice.
Yeah, it's given a tool. It's given a tool to use in those situations, which we have on many occasions.
Yes.
This is an interesting one. Do you think all bosses are okay with a certain amount of failure, or only in some circumstances, if it's in service of innovation, for example? And how do you navigate different CEO and leadership styles?
Yeah, that's such a interesting, good question. I think,
Do you think it's something people can learn?
I think some people have it naturally. I think other people absolutely have to learn it. But it's definitely a skill. It's about communication. I think you have to work in an environment where you feel safe, and psychological safety, I think it's called. So that allows you to be yourself and also to be very honest.
Yeah.
And any time I work with people, I always explain, we're not saving lives. Well, actually, if you work on some NHS advertising,
sometimes
you
are.
But you're not a doctor in a room.
Yeah.
So we've got to have a little bit of context around what we do. So take your job very seriously, have huge amounts of responsibility, but also understand that when you do, things are going to mess up because you're not perfect. And if you're not messing up, you're probably not trying hard enough, because that's where you're, again, testing and learning. And if something does happen, always be brutally honest about what's happened immediately. Don't dwell on it, or have a think about how it happened and have a solution. Always take ownership. I apologise way too much. That's probably something I'd tell my younger self as well. Stop apologising. But this is how I think we should move forward. Or what do you think? And then everyone just rallies around you, and it's absolutely fine. But I think you have to have that open communication. You know, I think I work at obviously one of the best agencies, and we have this mantra that everyone has a voice and everyone is listened to. And so when people come in, St Luke's the brand, it's the sum of its people that are coming in. And I think every person there feels super valued and understands what they're doing is really important, and how they're contributing to the whole, and that you will be supported. You are pushed up, but there's a safety net. And with that become, a support when you do fail.
Do you think there's an element of making mistakes more public, or you mentioned taking ownership of those mistakes, but I think, is there something around making those mistakes known to the team or whoever needs to know, so that you can move forward from them, and also equip the rest of the teams with the knowledge to not make that mistake themselves?
100%. And I think it's not about...
And the confidence.
It's not about self-flagellation and standing up and going, I'm a really bad person, this is what I've done at a weekly meeting. But I think it's about understanding that there's no shame.
Yes, exactly.
In messing up, and don't let it eat you up inside. It's happened. It's kind of like let it go. Just let it go. And what have we learned from it? And then you write up those learnings. Pictures, things go wrong. You have a wash up.
Yeah.
It's part of that. It's all part of the same thing. And it's not good for you to internalise things. Just be open and honest.
So if we are going into sort of the nuts and bolts of the role that we do through the lens of what doesn't really work or the biggest howlers to avoid, I wanted to touch on a few topics with you, Jess. And the first one is around team setup, like roles and responsibilities. What do you think the biggest mistake that you can make when it comes to new business team?
I've worked in very big new business teams and very small new business teams. I think a big mistake that you can make is thinking that it's their sole responsibility. I truly believe if you're a successful agency, that everyone knows that they're part of the new business team and that it's everyone's responsibility. But you need to take people on the journey with you. You need to make people understand why you're doing these things, why it's going to be good for the agency, and the role that they play in its success. Because then everyone has ownership. Everyone's coming on the journey. Everyone understands. And even if you're not working on that pitch, project management will understand why the person working on that pitch, they might need to pick up a bit of their work, or that they need to come in and they need to give great culture when the client comes in and be present, or ask if, hang on a minute, do you need help with that setup? Or just take little bits of ownership, make it easier. So I think, a really successful agency, new business is at the heart of it, and everyone understands that. And that's from the CEO down to the intern to the, we're all on one team. And the way that you can do that is just the way that we do it is we have very open conversations about the opportunities that are coming up and what's going on. We have those at our weekly nibs. We have drinks and food every Thursday night, but a stand-up where people just talk about the week, celebrate the successes and what's coming in. So that's a forum that we talk about what's happening or what's happened in new business and marketing.
And is that more of a broadcasty update for people, or are you asking for input? Like, how does that work?
Well, so it will be this has happened, and it could be if there's chemistry has happened that week, then the account director who is in the chemistry will say, oh, yeah, it was great, we did this, and it's just very short little snippets.
That makes people feel involved.
But we might be testing the product in NIPS. It could be we've got this coming up. So everyone, what do you think about this? And so it can be used as a forum for that, or it could be used as a forum for help. You know, this is what we're doing. We would love to have a few more hands-on. Who's up for it? So that's the kind of the constant flow. But we also have back-to-school meetings in January and September. So the beginning of the year is all about, this is what we're wanting to achieve this year. This is what we're all about. So that will be from a reputational, marketing and a new business opportunity. And this is what we've got going on at the moment. So we've all got to, and then the September one will be retrospective. This is what we've done. This is what we've achieved. This has been great. We've got 3 months. So this is what we're going to really concentrate on for the next 3 months.
But that last quarter of the calendar year is often the busiest, post-summer.
So it's pulling everyone together and just going, right, we've got a sprint now. And because how many months are there really? By the time it comes to December, everything winds down earlier and earlier, I find, in December now. And it's time that people can give input as well and go, I really like that, but have you thought about this? And why aren't we doing this? And again, it's that sense of ownership. Because so often afterwards I have people coming up to going, I really want to do that. I want to work on this. Can we do this? I've thought about a little marketing piece, or I'd like to write about this. Because I think sometimes you can get people that get really kind of stuck into their departments and what they're doing and not understanding, or just not feeling part of everything that's going on there. And you never want people to feel that they're just a small cog.
Yeah.
They are a super important part of a machine.
And so a related question around agency reputation, really, which is the other side of the coin. And taking the agency with you is obviously, that's also very important for reputation. How do you do that? Or what do you think are the things to avoid when thinking about agency rep within the agency?
We know what we want to talk about that year, and we know what we want to kind of push. And so we kind of formulate a plan around that. And we have people, I understand, within the management team who is best placed to speak about what. And so we can respond very quickly and we can really push out stuff. I mean, we are a culture-first agency. I think we've got all of the amazing work that's going on, and we've got this amazing culture. And those are two kind of bedrocks that we really push and talk about.
Have you ever made any missteps in terms of rep, or have you ever done things previously or in previous businesses that you think, I just wouldn't do that again, or haven't done it since because it didn't work?
I think it's putting people into maybe situations where they aren't as prepped or as comfortable as they should be. I don't think you can force fit people into talking about, oh, you're a really confident person, oh, you'll be brilliant on Sky News or something like that. Not that happened, but I think that you've got to understand, you've got to really, truly, with reputation, understand what people are comfortable doing.
So what do you do then if you have a leadership team who are not keen on doing external thought leadership because it's just not really their personality? How do you deal with that? Because as we all know, it's so important to the agency's reputation. You have to have your people at the forefront, and people buy from people, all of those things that everybody is well aware of. So how would you deal with that, Jess?
I think that you would have to weed out and find someone who's going to do it and then get them some media training. Or you have to find someone else in the agency. I mean, it's a non-negotiable. You absolutely have to do it. It can be this thing where people go, it's so super scary. But if you're prepped and you know what you're talking about and it's an area of passion, you just have to practice. And you get better and better and better at it. If you know that everyone's got your back and it's like, come on, just do this and try it, they will try it and they will do it. And then they get a success. And then people go, I liked that. It was scary and my heart's still beating really fast, but I really liked it. Getting stuff published is great. I mean, we all love validation. We all love to engage in conversation, and I think it's great if you do have a mixture of people. If you're all super confident and wanting to be talking, you'll all be talking over each other. So you kind of have to look for the people that where their strengths are. And work with them to build that up, and having a great PR agency.
And their passion points as well. If you find the passion points, it's much easier.
People always talk about their passion points, but ask people to talk about stuff that... It's like when you're in a pitch, if you kind of go into it ill-prepared and you don't really know what you're talking about, that's never going to... That's not going to result in anything good.
Let's talk about pitching for a second. 2 questions. First question is, what's the biggest mistake that you can make when pitching? And then the second question is more around whether you have had any unfortunate pitch disasters that you can talk about.
I would hope everyone's had a pitch disaster. It's just that if you haven't had a pitch disaster, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
Neil Henderson is our CEO. He actually had an Edinburgh Fringe first. He's a very natural raconteur. He's great at talking, very, very funny, tells stories very, very well. And when I first started working with him, I just thought that he just rocks up and there it was and, wonderful. But he really, really taught me very, very quickly the art of preparation and that you have to have your 3 points that you want to get across and be very clear on what those are. And then everything else will fall around that. And rehearse. And it's something that he still does now. It's just so important. Winging it is not an option. And I think that's a huge mistake in pitching, is if you don't have enough time that's carved out for the team to do 2 full run-throughs and then a very small team run-through where they're really deep diving into the work and what's necessary and what's not, because there's always too much stuff. But you need that time and space for everyone to really, really get to grips with the points that they want to land and get across in a very natural way. But also to make sure that you haven't got overkill. Because I think one of the mistakes that we've made in pitching, and this is what actually wasn't at St. Luke's, this is at previous agency, is that we have way too much stuff. And the client said at the end, I really loved the line at the beginning, but it was just after you've heard it again and again and again and again and again.
I think you have to remember as well what a pitch is there to do. It's not there to create all of the work that you are going to be releasing for that campaign. You need to sell the idea, and that is it. And you need to show that it is able to do the things that it needs to do in the channels it needs to do it in. And that does not require fully blown out millions of executions, like the same thing over and over again in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes
it could look like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this.
Yeah.
But you need time to be able to really look at that and focused as a team.
And cherry pick the best.
Because if you've left it too late, it's really difficult to be able to look at it objectively and say, these are the best things, because people also will have slightly different points of view on what should be kept in, what should be kept out. So Neil now, he still does, like if Neil was in a pitch presentation, he would still be doing those three rehearsals and making sure that he they are baked in. I'm responsible for making sure that happens. Absolutely. And people understand their role in the room. They understand the points that they're trying to land, and everyone's shoulders are a bit down. Whereas if you're last minute going, sorry, what were we doing? And what were we saying? It's just ghastly for everyone. So we make sure that the whole process is really thought through from start to finish, so people aren't worrying about the coffee or the catering that's coming in, or whether the loos are clean, or whether they're being met in reception. All of that is totally taken away. And it's taken quite a lot of learning to get to that point.
Give me the pitch howlers.
I mean, there's so many. It's just so ghastly. One of the worst stories I've ever heard, it's not me, is that someone didn't press submit on a portal. These ghastly portals. Dear. Which also, I was listening to Steve in your last session, and he said about someone saying the worst thing about new business is those portals with the timer going down. And it really made me laugh, because someone who I was working with, who's an account person, who was helping me fill in one of these portals, he went, there's a big button there that says decline opportunity. How do you not press it? Just because there's a button, so you've got to press it. They just couldn't get their head around the fact that we had to work within these portals.
They are nerve-wracking. They're very nerve-wracking. Also because often things go wrong, or like you can't submit it, or like the text box doesn't fit in the right amount of text.
The word count's always different.
Horrendous.
Yes. And then they always find a little bit at the end that it was hidden somewhere. Always like, oh God, yeah, they are. They're sent to try us. They really are. That actually makes me wake up sweating at 4 o'clock in the morning,
horrible.
thinking about that. Really feel for that person. It was dealt with very well internally, apparently. We have got it so wrong about pitch theatre. So
Ooh,
wrong.
Give me that one.
It was for a brand that started in festivals. And so we thought that we'd get the whole agency dressed up as a festival and get everyone to dress up as a festival, because we love a dress up. Absolutely love it. Sometimes it works really well. So everyone had bucket hats on, and they had, we had little, strobe wristbands and everything. We even had some straw in reception, little signposts going out of it, lose this way and bar this way. And we started the pitch, and one of the founder owners just opened with, "I hate festivals."
You had done the festival thing because they'd started in festivals,
because that was
right?
their home.
That was
it really made sense. It wasn't just random.
But clearly they hated it because they'd spent so much time in festivals in their early days.
Because we'd done the research, and this is not something that they'd ever said before. It was really new news.
Dear.
Yeah, it was. But, you get...
And you didn't win it, I assume.
No. Absolutely not. But that was extraordinary. Another one was, it was for a very outdoorsy brand, and it was a part of our idea was all about being back to nature and being outdoors. And we laid the table with moss, and we created a whole outside inside. It was beautiful. We had an amazing project manager who could just make these incredible installations for us. And so it sounds weird putting moss on the table, but it was part of it.
No, I'm picturing it.
And the client, she came in and she was allergic to moss. Like, not just a little bit allergic to moss.
That's such a
Streaming.
random
And it's not something
allergy.
You're going to go, when you ask about allergies beforehand, has anyone got any food intolerances? Anyone got any moss intolerances?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she was very gracious, very, very gracious. But we had to move rooms.
Oh. Next question is around your strengths and weaknesses, and I guess on the theme of mistakes, kind of focusing a little more on what you think you're not good at and how you navigate that, and so what your advice is to people navigating things they're not as strong in.
So I think one of the joys of getting old, because there has to be some, is being really clear on what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and being able to ask for help and not being embarrassed about it. And numbers aren't my strength. I'd love them to be, but they're not.
I feel you.
I look at spreadsheets and I literally start panicking. It's like people looking at portals. Well, I look at spreadsheets of numbers. Now, I get the big picture and I understand where we're trying to get to, and I get numbers, but it's the inputting and it's the
minutiae of it.
Yeah, it's just not my strength, and it takes me so long, and it's so bad. So, fess up. And work with someone who's really good at it, because there are people in the agency, because if we all had the same skill set, what a boring place it would be. And there are people that really love it and are really good at it. So find your ally in something that you're not great at, and then you become a little bit of a partnership, and because they really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that's true of team as well. Like if there's a certain skill within new business or marketing that you think, God, it's not my natural area.
You can't
make
do
sure
everything.
You've got someone on your team who is good at it, and that's their leading.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
What was the last mistake that you made, Jess?
Oh, it was hideous, actually. It was on a podcast, funnily enough. I was lucky enough to go to South by Southwest again this year. And really great. Thoroughly recommend it to everyone. And we did this, it was me and the CSO, Dan, went out, and we did, we went out there, did all the deep dives, got all the learnings, and we put together, mostly Dan, an hour that's going to supercharge everyone's 2025. And it was all the learnings, all the stuff that's going to come in the future. It's for our clients, it's for prospects. It's an hour's talk that we did to clients face to face. We invited prospects in, but we did a podcast. But it was a Zoom. It was a Zoom meet, so it wasn't a podcast. And I didn't check the tech well enough beforehand. And all my notes were on the screen. This is an hour's talk that we're giving, and I was the first 20 minutes. And so I have to open it up. And as we open up the meeting, my notes disappear because I'm running the Zoom.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
And I'm going to send it to you because we've got the video, and you can see the moment that I go, oh, my God. And luckily, in my bag next to me was an old draft of notes that I'd taken home.
Thank
to read
God.
on the train. I'm actually bristling now thinking about it. I thought, I've got to get up. I'm going to have to run out. I've got to go to a printer. I've got to tell Dan. What am I going to do? I mean, it was probably a second, but so much went through my mind.
I would like to see that. Send it to me. I'll tell you.
It was so bad. And I know to check. I know to do that. And I just can't tell you.
Well, it just goes
how
to show,
I didn't
like,
realise
everyone can slip up.
That it was going to disappear. Of course it was going to disappear. I was running it. Anyway.
I think last closing question just for you is what's one idea that experts in the growth field say a lot that you actually disagree with?
Oh, this is such a good question because I think there's probably lots. But I think the one thing, I think we live in really increasingly turbulent times and business is difficult, working environments are difficult, and I think all rules are off the table. And I think that there's some rules around pitching that we just can't follow anymore. So, say, for example, and I know that Steve mentioned this one, that you win at chemistry. You have a previous relationship with a client, you're guaranteed to win. You have previous experience, is going to put you streets ahead. I think all of those things that we used to they were formats and indicators. And, you could kind of rely on them. I think those rules are just out the window. Yeah. I really do. I still think relationships probably have the edge, but I don't think they're a guarantor anymore. That's a challenge.
I'd agree with that. Thank you very much, Jess, for coming in today.
It's been
it was a really great chat.
I
look forward to watching it back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thanks very much, everyone, for listening to this month's episode of How Not to Fuck It Up. Tune in next month if you want to hear more mistakes from senior leaders across our industry. Thank you.